What are we going to talk about tonight, Dave?
We're going to be discussing the TFE by Will Duffy, which is he calls the final experiment, and how we think it may have been accomplished.
Basically, what you're saying is that you think that they faked the sun down there.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and once you brought it up to me, and I've actually sat with it for a few days, I don't know how to say I'm completely convinced, but I'm definitely heading there. That's for sure. So,
And I ran it by a lot of other prominent people in the community, and nobody shot it down yet. A lot of people are like, "Wow, that's interesting." Taboo conspiracy is one, and we had a long conversation. He was supposed to be part of this, but he's busy with 16 kids, I think.
mhm,
But when we say fake the sun, we don't mean the sun simulator. We don't mean this because
mhm.
this is crazy. When you think faking the sun, if you think the sun simulator, you're going to rule it out. Just like if you think flat Earth, someone that searches for flat Earth and sees this, you immediately go, "Oh, flat Earth is stupid," and you stop looking. I think that the sun simulator was leaked several years ago to as a red herring for this exact operation. When I say operation, this is an operation equal to the moon landing. And when I say that is it's a billion times easier than the moon landing because the moon landing had millions or billions of people watching, television cameras, people all over the place. This had three people in a remote area, essentially controlled by NASA for a deception. And we're going to talk about how they possibly or probably or likely pulled that off. If you look at it from my point of view, this thing was designed for me to go. I had I would say the foresight to see that it was a false binary, it was a trap, and I didn't know what they were going to do. Jared and Austin were 99% sure they were going to cancel the trip or it was going to be cloudy. Well, that didn't happen, and I knew it was a trap from the beginning. So, when we look at something like this, I mean, the moon landing, just this room of people, but this is just a small fraction of the people that are involved with the moon landing, but they pulled that off. We all know that that was faked, right? This is a billion times easier to do what they did, and we're going to talk about how they did it, and we'll go from there. But Marty, you wanted to bring up some points about what we care about and what we're saying and what we mean here.
Yeah, so let's just go on the list right away. Okay, so are we proclaiming without question that they faked the 24-hour sun? As of right now, I'm leaning very strongly yes, and I think Dave is pretty much there too, but there are other possibilities. Do we still have to take into consideration that there could be a rational, reasonable explanation for there is a 24-hour sun down there and there's a reasonable explanation in our flat earth model because of optics, dome, that sort of thing. Yes, that's still a possibility as well. But do we believe that this avenue should be specifically looked at? Yes. And once you start looking at this avenue, I think the rest of them are going to fall off, and you're going to start to see that this actually makes a whole lot of sense, and it actually leads into a lot of other things like we were talking about before, like fake UFO invasions and that sort of stuff, which we'll get into the holography and the holographic technology and stuff like that. But so, we already know that we can't really even do much science on physical science. We can't do any physical science on what's going on upstairs. So we fully admit that. So there's a huge limitation, no matter what model we end up on, of even under, actually doing science on what goes on upstairs. I mean, right? Would you agree
Yeah,
with that? Right?
I totally agree. You did a great talk about how the sky is immeasurable. It's non-physical. We can't go there. Even if Joe Handy's model is 100% accurate, it's still just a theory. And I believe now, this is secondhand information that when they got there, people that were leaving said it's been cloudy for months there,
Mhm.
and then the sky parted when they went there. And
They all the people at the camp said that it's been like terrible weather for like 2 months, and then the day before we get here, just beautiful. And that's a blessing. Probably not a coincidence.
I call it 9/11 blue, but now I'm going to call it Union Glacier blue. That's the new definition of a chroma key blue sky,
Mhm.
and
So
it
that's
became blue sky when they got there.
Yeah, that's one of the things that we'll talk about. Basically, when you're in Antarctica, it's according to all the records, 80-90% of the time it's cloudy.
Let's start with the organizer of this. This is supposedly a grassroots movement by a guy named Will Duffy, a little preacher from a little church in Denver. We'll talk about him in a second. But one of the things when I turned it down, so they were surprised when I turned it down, and they really wanted prominent flat earthers down there so they could pull this off. Because if they had like a no name there, it wouldn't have been as powerful of a move for them. And when Jaron and Austin were negotiating, I pointed out, I said, if they see the sun behind a hazy sky, they could fake that. I was calling, they could fake the sun. And and Jaron's like, no, you can't, it was sunspots and everything. I said, well, if it's hazy. So he brought that up to Will. Will says, if it's hazy, it's a win for flat Earth.
Yeah. So here's Will Duffy.
It's crazy how confident he was.
Exactly. So this guy, for months before they even go down, we already know that it's supposed to be 80-90% clouds most of the time, right? He's completely confident. He's spending what, $500,000, maybe $1 million. I don't know how much of his own money to go down for months. He's completely confident that it's just going to, next thing you know, when he get down there, blue skies are going to show up. That's exactly what happens. They see the 24-hour sun, they get out of there, that sort of thing. So here's Will Duffy, that is essentially the guy that came out of nowhere, has a bunch of money, is completely confident, plays the cool, calm, collected sort of figure the entire time, is on the Globey side. Everything that they needed was presented to them that day, a perfectly blue sky and a sun. And Will Duffy was confident the entire time. What about Duffy is if you've been to his Instagram account or his YouTube account, that sort of stuff, you can see there's nobody in the audience when he's preaching. We ask, has he performed any baptisms, any weddings? Has he performed any funerals? Is there any testimonials for any of the people that actually work at his, or congregations from his church? Is there any of this information? Because allegedly there's several thousand people that go to that, or at least subscribe to his church online. Who are these people? There's got to be some people that we could speak to, right?
Right. And if you look at all of the recordings, he was a preacher for 3 years before this. And if you watch all, except for the last few, I think in the last year when they're getting closer to this, there was like half a dozen people, a dozen people in his church. But never once you hear a baby cry. Never once you hear an amen. Never once you hear him address anyone in the congregation. Marty, could you do service after service after service and never acknowledge anybody in the audience?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
So that's a little crazy. And then the thing that I find amazing is, Will Duffy is a self-proclaimed a multimillionaire, and that's why he just cares about the flat earth thing, right? But if you check his FINRA, he was in the financial financial business. On 11/9/2021, he was sued for $218,000. He got off for $10,000, not bad. Okay, and then so that's one. 9/16/2022, getting a little closer. He had to settle for $225,000, right? And then 4/19/2024, that's April 19th, right? This was when this is coming out. He got sued again, and then on June 6th, $135,000, violations of federal securities laws, violations of Colorado Securities Act, breach of contract, common law fraud, negligence, and gross negligence. 135,000. And then on 6/11, another one for $360,000, a whole bunch of stuff. And all this guy cares, he's got another $500,000 in fines, and all this guy cares about is settling the flat earth debate. Does that make any sense to you?
So the other thing that people need to know before we get into the fake sun and that sort of stuff is that Anthony Powell is a guy that he actually is a filmmaker, and he filmed, what's the film? It's A Year in Antarctica, I want to say, something like that.
Something like that, yeah.
Basically, right before Whitsitt and Jaron get down to Antarctica, Will Duffy hands Whitsitt. He said, "Hey, I just went online and I saw that there's this one guy that has a 24-hour shot of the sun." And this was, and so flat earthers for how long? Probably 8-9 years have been looking for footage, 24 hours, and there's basically nothing. There was one that was stitched together. Then all of a sudden, right before those guys get down, Will Duffy hands Whitsitt this video and says, "Hey, I found this 24-hour video." Well, it's Anthony Powell. Anthony Powell is a filmmaker that's been working in Antarctica for about 10 years. And he works for National Geographic and Disney and BBC. And he actually has a company called, I forget what it's called. I forget what it's called. I'll show the image here. But basically, he owns the company that runs his website. And he actually provides stock footage for a bunch of these, like National Geographic, right, Disney, and that sort of stuff. So this is the guy that had the 24-hour footage, just happenstance to just hand it right to Whitsitt right before they get down there. So
right. So back in I think it's 2014, 15, 16, somewhere around there, all the flat earthers were saying there's no footage of the 24-hour sun. We'd called down to there and looked at all of the webcam footage, and they cut out 6 to 10 hours every night. And they claim that it was bandwidth issues and stuff. So that's suspect. There's no webcam footage, and anyone that called to Antarctica and said, "Hey, I want to come there and see the 24-hour sun. Will I be able to see it?" They would never say yes. Lots of them said no. But in the North, they highly advertise it. But Anthony Powell put out this video, and I debunked it, and it literally put egg on the guy's face. Well, Anthony Powell then goes quiet for a couple of years. Right? This is a guy. He put out this video. It's destroyed, proven fake. Not because we say it's fake. It's because it was fake.
Mm-hmm.
And then he quietly films the sun a half a dozen more times and puts it out quietly. And Will Duffy is the one that discovers it.
And then hands it to Witsit right before they leave, and then look who the guy works for. So it's like, just once again, very, very suspect. That's all we'll say. So, and it seems like a lot of people are looking into Jared and Austin, and maybe they should be looking more into Will Duffy and Anthony Powell and these sorts of characters. So
absolutely.
Another thing that needs to be said too is that any scientific experiment, and this is your basic protocols of science, right? Now, even though that really wasn't an experiment, it wasn't final, it really wasn't an experiment, it was just an observation. But even if we were to grant and say that was an experiment, even in your normal protocols of science, do you know how many experiments you have to do at the very least to consider it a legit scientific experiment? At least three. At least three. So the notion that their premise is that we're going to do this one thing and it's somehow science goes directly against just your basic protocols of science.
One thing I want to talk about, Antarctica. Remember, Al Gore said that if the temperature rises 1.5 or 2 degrees, we're all dead. Remember that?
Mm-hmm.
Right? Antarctica, starting about 4 years ago, had a 50-degree heat wave. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, people deny this. You can still find the articles, CNN, 50 degrees above normal. 50.
Now, Antarctica is heating up faster than expected, as a scientific study reveals that it's warming nearly double the global rate.
Right.
Now,
and so there's a whole bunch of articles talking about it. And if you get to the Wikipedia one, Wikipedia says that it started in the summer. That means in June. So in the heliocentric model, the sun is 3.5 million miles farther from the Earth. There's no sun in Antarctica, and they have a 50-degree heat wave. Can you explain that, Marty?
Mm-hmm. The other thing is it's 80-90% cloudy most of the time too. That's what they say. So how is there an increased heat wave with that?
No
then
sun.
You say, with no sun. Then you also say 50 degrees. Okay, so this is what the scientists were saying. If you had a 2 to 3 degree heat, increase in California, you would have mass deaths. So down there, they have 50 degrees heat. Well, where is this heat coming from? Well, what we're about to say, or what you purported is that, well, it's because they're faking the sun, and that it's actually heating the place down there. So when Jared and Austin went down there, what they looked at was, they basically were part of an enormous prank, if you will.
So when they went down there and reported what they saw and brought back videos, people that in their soul knows that something's wrong, says, okay, this is fake. Well, the only default they have, because they've been psyoped, they've been gatekept by the sun simulator to think that there's no way to fake the sun, is everyone's in on it. And so they look for anomalies. And sure, there's anomalies, but they're explainable. That's why I had to make those friggin' gate videos, because they were just wrong. And I got demonized because of it. I said, I'm supporting flat Earth. Supporting Will Duffy. Absolutely not. I am more against it than anybody else. But I know that they're not in on it because I was supposed to go. That means that I would be in on it. Now, none of you, not even you, Marty, know that I'm not in on it. Only I know, right? Only I know 100% for sure, right? I could be the greatest special agent of all time. But I knew that they weren't in on it. And then, all of the GoPro footage, the chest cam footage, everything else, I don't think anybody can deny that they were there. So you have to go even deeper. There's a video wall, and the drone hitting the wall and all of this stuff. They were there, their breath wasn't, vape gate. They were there. They were there. They filmed. The film is real. But what did they film?
Okay, so what we're about to talk about is that, yes, we think that they faked the sun down there. And actually, in my opinion, they've probably been doing this, or at least set up to do this, since the 60s. Okay, so this wasn't something that they just set up for like Jared and Austin to get down there or anything like that. That when, just as us flat earthers know that they've been lying to us about our cosmology. So this would just be yet one other aspect of that lie. It's not like a whole new conspiracy that we're drumming up. It's basically, look, you got SpaceX, you got NASA, JAXA, ESA, JPL. You've got all of these organizations that are doing what? completely committed to lying about our cosmology. This would just be yet another one of those aspects.
And a
So
simple one compared to how big those are. Think about it.
Exactly, right? This is actually peanuts. It's like, as you said, the tech is really Atari. But so first and foremost, when people say, well, they couldn't fake the sun. So let's take the Globies perspective on this. What do Globies say that the modern science can do? They can drive rovers around on Mars. They can send a car out into space, Elon SpaceX. They can build the ISS going 17,500 miles an hour. They can reconnect satellites after 42 years of being dormant. We can go hippity hoppity on the moon in the 1960s. We can create nuclear power, nuclear bombs, CERN particle accelerators that can recreate the conditions before the Big Bang. We have phones in our pockets that allow us to speak to people in Indochina and look up anything instantly. We can project holographically, literally into thin air. You can do all that sort of stuff, but you're going to claim that we can't fake the sun or the moon? But beyond that, now flurfers, all of us stupid flurfers that think we couldn't fake the sun and the moon, but they can manipulate the weather with chemtrails. They can elaborately build space programs to lie about where we live. They could torch entire cities like Lahaina and LA with, they could do all the false flags like the Boston one and the LA one or Las Vegas one where they could do all that. They can destroy and burn the old world and lie about history, but they can't fake the sun and the moon.
First, let's talk about current event here. This is Los Angeles, and you're seeing trees and houses burned from the inside out. So it's clear that dues are being used here. If you look at this car right here in the middle of the street, the glass is melted. This never ever happens, right? Glass is melted. Right. So there is some sort of tech being used in these fires. This is the metal, the aluminum from the car running. What kept it warm on the street so it ran so far? It's running 20, 30 feet away. Why is it still melted? This is impossible. This doesn't happen. This is a new thing that's happened. It happened in Maui. It happened in first in California, again now in Los Angeles or wherever they are here. And then if you look, there's many shots where the wood didn't burn except where the metal is. The wood didn't burn except where the metal is, right? It's just there's nails right here, 1, 2, 3, right? And the wood only burns where there's metals. What happens when you put metal in a microwave? That's where the fire starts. Mm-hmm. So this is just showing that this is not just a heat fire. This is directed energy, trees burning from the inside out, cars completely obliterated, but trees nearby not burned. So directed energy technology isn't a theory. It does exist. And the governments use it to do crazy things. And to think that they wouldn't use it to make a bright spot in the sky with 3 dots in it. People say, well, what about the sunspots? So there's holographic projections that don't need gas or screen or glass or anything. They can go right into thin air, right? Here's just a standard laser pointing up at the clouds, making a bright spot. So this is nothing. You can do this yourself. So there's one of the technologies. This is called a dragonfire, and you can shoot energy up into the sky and literally create a plasma ball.
And this is a trip. This is
So just seeing this stuff. I mean, if I cut out the background, you wouldn't know what you were looking at. If I said it was the sun, you would see the sun, right? This is so we've all seen this where the lasers they don't burn things blue. Now that's not what this is about. But
Project Blue Beam.
Yeah. So you remember the blue roofs and everything. Everyone knows about that. But look at this. Look at that. Doesn't that look a little bit like a sun? Doesn't that look like a beam? With the sun. Imagine if you didn't see this beam. I kind of silhouetted the background. This is just a random shot of a laser beam hitting this blue tarp. Mm-hmm. So
for them to do what they had to do is basically of course, the tech that they have is probably, way beyond what we even know. But even like you were saying, like just to even reproduce that, all they would essentially need would be a concentrated beam of light, infrared, whatever, and a hologram of what the sun, the sunspots, which you could actually even take a video of the sun exactly how it is in the sky and project it into the sky. And this is, as you were saying, when you actually looked, some of this stuff up, some of this tech is 1960, 1970, let alone what they have now. Just to show how advanced this tech is, that you can, for like $22 at Walmart, you can get a lamp that actually projects the moon just as you would see it for like literally a $20. And so this goes to show you how actually old some of this technology is.
Here's something I noticed last night, and again, I looked for some other videos. See, this is the laser beam hitting the thing here, so it's a weird sunbeam. But when I compared it to the Antarctic footage, you see these weird lines here. I'm going forward and backwards here. That's kind of a weird sun flare, and I compared it to the 24-hour sun in the Arctic, which we know is real, and I didn't find any of those weird I call them disconnected lines. Now, again, maybe I'm wrong here. They're just very strange. Like if there was at different beams projecting this, like these are very, very strange sun flares. So this is the Arctic, and we don't see any of those beams there. I just found that interesting. And now we have all these drones and now orbs that are showing up everywhere. This is an orb over New Jersey. Now, with a couple choices here, this could be an extraterrestrial orb that we don't understand, or this could just be another hoax with some directed energy, a plasma ball being projected in the sky. Looks a little bit like a sun, right? And this is just projected into thin air. Imagine if you had plasma or reflective crystalline dome at 13,000 feet, what you can do with that and making it much brighter and bigger.
And the point is that if they can project holograms and that sort of stuff into thin air or off the dome or whatever, right, that look as real as anything, then this gives a lot of credence and credibility to the whole, UFO agenda that they've been pushing for years. So beyond that, but you're going to explain how you think that they actually fake the sun.
So we're talking to somebody that's been involved with this type of technology from years and years ago, and it's way more advanced. So if here's Union Glacier, their camp is somewhere in here, you could have one location here, and it beams the sun around this beam, and then when it gets over here, there's a handoff to another projector, and to do the handoff, there needs to be a little bit of an overlap so the sun doesn't blink out, and if they did an overlap, it could cause that squished sun, which they saw. But again, we're not even sure if there needs to be handoff. It depends on the location. They might be able to do the whole thing with one. But when I'm talking about the squished sun, we did see the sun morph and change shape a little bit. That could have been where the handoff happened. Again, this needs more investigation, and I wish people would get off the ridiculous investigation path that they're on, that Jaron and Austin are shills. They're pawns. They're not shills. They reported what they saw, but they're not looking into all of the possibilities. If they're transmitting into the sky, how far would they have to project? Well, if you had an airplane that was at 13,000 feet, how far would it have to go to appear to be 15 degrees off the horizon, and it's only 9.2 miles, right? So the airplane, 13,000 feet, height of the dome, okay? And it only have to go 9.2 miles to look like it's 15 degrees, and to be 30 degrees off the horizon, which would be the noon sun, only 4.27 miles. So think about this. The projector, it's got a radius of less than 10 miles, way less.
Yeah.
Now, it could be, they could send it farther. They wouldn't have to send it farther if they're using the dome. So they're just making a ball go around those guys that has light and brings heat, right? Because they could feel the heat of the sun, and it was super bright.
This is the one thing that nobody's looking into, really. You were the only one, as far as I knew, that was actually looking into it. And it's the one thing that they needed to fake. So everybody else is going down all these other avenues. And it's like, you don't need to do that at all. As far as I can tell, Jaron and Austin are absolutely telling the truth. The whole trip was legit. But what's not legit is what they saw. The one thing that they needed to produce was a nice day and a fake sun. Now, all these people were saying the notion that they don't have the tech to do that is ridiculous. I would not agree with anybody that say they couldn't do that. No, they have tech way beyond that. That's for sure.
So now everyone, one thing is they're talking about how the sky color never changed. Now the argument against this, the steel man, is the sun never got low enough for it to really change. This is the Arctic, this is the Antarctic, and when the sun gets low, we're all used to it changing. But I'd say, well, it's very dry down there. That's maybe why it didn't change. But it's the gases. When it gets down low, it's going through different gases, and we should, in my opinion, I think the colors should change.
So here's a hologram literally into thin air. You don't need an LCD screen. You don't need any sort of medium for reflection. None of that. Literally just in thin air.
Right. And this is just a little point, and this is old technology. This isn't this is what they're telling us about. So that's there's nothing there. So just think bigger. Everyone think bigger. All right. What's the most important lie that the elite have? Hiding the globe, hiding the flat earth, hiding the flat earth.
To think that they were going to go through all of the, the trouble to lie about every other aspect, but we're not going to shore up what goes on in Antarctica, also knowing that people were eventually going to say, hey, I think the earth is flat, I want to go see. That means, hey, they just waited for this moment, basically. Right. Like, wait until somebody questions, then we'll go down there and show them the sun. And who got pranked? Jaron and all.
Yep. With all of the scientific, university researching that's being done down there, scientists, astronomers, all of this time, for the last 20, 30, 40 years, nobody has done a 24-hour sun except a guy that works for National Geographic and Union Glacier, which is, that they're deceptive. And a bunch of propped up globe propagandists. They're the ones that bring flat earthers down there to see this event. Talking about the heat wave, going back to the heat wave for a second. If let's just say they've only been practicing for 4 years, well, that's when Anthony Powell did his other better videos, not the ones, that they're essentially look the same as what everyone filmed at TFE. So the guy's been humiliated, and he films this and he uploads it quietly and doesn't share it. He doesn't share it with everybody, doesn't like, hey, flat earthers, look, here you go. Will Duffy's the one that finds it. That doesn't make any sense.
The whole thing stinks to high hell. I mean, it just absolutely does. I mean, we knew it stunk to high hell before, but now you start adding these little components in, and it's like, okay.
So I'm gonna, everyone watching, Marty, you know the answer to this already. Which one is the real sun? Which one is the real sun? So is it number 1 on the left, 2 in the middle, 3 on the right? And 90. When I asked all of the people that I've shared this with beforehand. Before we took this public, I ran this by a lot of people because I didn't want to run with something that was completely ridiculous. I didn't think it's ridiculous, but everyone is on the same page and thinking that, this is probable. The answer is I lied. These are both real. This one is real and this one is real, but you probably picked this one. Right?
Taboo Conspiracy and I both picked that one.
Which one is the real sun? I Photoshop 2 of the images in there. So we're looking at an LCD screen. Which one's the real sun?
Honestly, I think it would be the one on the left, but
right. You picked this one.
Yep.
Yeah. Everyone did. Only 2 people picked the middle one because they knew that they're like, he's tricking me somehow. I'm not going to pick the one he wants me to pick. Right. So if you look at it, this is a laser on an LCD screen. This is a laser, and it's going to move. So I'm going to stop it. And wherever I stop it, this is just a close up of a laser burning an LCD screen, right? So does that look like the sun? So that certainly does to me, right? And lasers can project, super high resolution images of the sun. So all NASA had to do is feed them an image of the sun. They project it into the sky, into the plasma, into thin air, and that's what those guys saw. And by the way, it brings light and heat. So the heat wave is they've been testing for the last 4 years, testing in the winter when nobody's there.
So I'm sorry, I don't want to miss this because
people
are going to say, well, what about the real sun down there? What explain that? So basically we have our flat earth map, your generalized flat earth map that basically doing this 80 degrees, anything 80 degrees south on your Gleason's map basically says that there's not going to be any sunrise there, right? Is that the idea?
Maybe it would rise low on the horizon at 10 a.m. and set by 2 p.m. Maybe.
Okay. So
maybe not at all.
At Union Glacier, they're at 79.5, right? So that means the sun's going to be visible at some point. So how do you block out the sun and replace it with the new sun?
So here's a picture that I took. This is I get to watch the sunrise here. I'm in Mexico, and out here there's a layer of clouds, so I don't see the sun. The sun should rise here, but I don't get to see the sun until it's about 15 degrees off the horizon. Okay, so if there is at that far south, I don't think that they're going to. And look at the flat Earth map. There would be the sun would be very low. It would be very low, only for 3, 4, 5 hours at the max, and so it would never. It could just be behind here. Clouds in the distance,
That's
like halfway from Antarctica to Chile, just cloud up the sky. You know, and we know that they can do that. So here's a day where there is no clouds. I can see the sun, right? And another day, this is here. And so there's the horizon. And I don't see the sun until it's 15, 20 degrees off the horizon. And so when the sun rises, it's behind, this is just imagine this behind that cloud, and it's going back to the northwest, to northwest. So the sun would never show. We have light in the sky, and we have a super bright light going across the sky. No one's even going to notice the sun. Right? You wouldn't even have to match up to it. You wouldn't even have to match up to it.
They also say that the people at down there, they're there for specifically the 4 months that there is supposed to be sun, and then they pack up and leave. Is that true?
I think so.
Union Glacier, right? That they
Yeah.
basically November to February, and then they're gone. So essentially, as far as we could tell, they're down there essentially to fake the sun. You know,
Well,
or at least-
maybe not. Maybe they're doing other research down there.
Yeah,
You would have to say, it's just like going, oh, is everyone in NASA in on it? Well, lots of them are. So there's lots of people at Union Glacier that are in on it. Now, the guy that cooks the pizzas, the guy that cleans the bathrooms, he's just there. It's light in the sky, and let's say he's there for working there for the last 2 years, and they're like, okay, let's do a blue sky test today. Hey, we have a couple random mountain climbers here. We have the marathoners here. And we're gonna make the blue sky, and we're gonna make it go around. And Anthony, you can do a 24-hour time lapse. And now we just created a whole bunch of witnesses, a whole bunch of credible, non-lying witnesses that saw exactly what those guys saw, right? And so that's nothing. That's what they do all the time. That in all the false flags, they do that. They create witnesses like that. Robbie Parker worked at the hospital for 9 months prior to the situation that didn't happen to his not child. So to say that you have to deny everything that NASA's doing. That how they're faking it. So there's
that's what I mean. Like, as soon as you presented this, I'm like, this is just one more aspect of everything they're already doing.
And 1,000 times easier.
The tech to do it is stupid simple. They would obviously have to do it in order to shore up this part of the cosmology. Clouding the area, well, duh. What conspiracy theorist doesn't understand that they can cloud seed and weather manipulate? That's an easy one, So it's like it's all right there.
Right,
and what it does is it takes that one anomaly that we have. Basically, right? This huge, and everything seems to work generally. Then you have this big anomaly. Okay, well, what if it's not an anomaly? It's a lie.
Yeah. So this is a company called Pangolin, and they have a product called Beyond, which shoots plasma light, can light holograms into thin air, right? And they're the best company in the world. They do outdoor, concert venues and all sorts of stuff. And I just asked my good friend ChatGPT. I said, do they do work with NASA? And well, yes, they do. And but the full aspect of their contract is not public. Okay, it's just weird. Doesn't prove anything. It's just NASA has a contract with this holographic projection company. Pretty weird, right? So Microsoft, I forget how old this is, their Unity 3D software, the first thing that they show is that they're faking a sun. Now, this is where they got to wear glasses to see it, but they're showing a faked sun.
Yeah, just a little mockery there, if you will.
Yeah, a little mockery, right?
Just sprinkle in there. Basically, what you figured out is that the exact time that they would have to leave would be the exact time that the sun would be coming around. So they're leaving while the sun's coming around. As the sun is leaving on the flat stationary Earth this way, they're heading this way. They got a new sun projected in front of them, and then boom. So you have the continuous sunlight, etc.
When I was thinking about this, I was like, what about they were in Chile? They're going to watch the sun. They're going to film the sun out the window the whole time. And then I said, the only time that they could do it if the sky is clear is if they left around noontime, because they're going to head dead south. So when you're in Chile, you watch the sun come from the northeast, right? And it comes at noon, it's just north of you, and then it goes to the northwest. Now, due to personal atmospheric dome optics, it may look like it sets to the north, to the southwest, or rises in the southeast. And that's perfectly explainable. But how do you transition to the Antarctic sun? Well, I think they left just before noon. So the sun would be off to the back of the plane. Then it's behind the plane. They can't see it at all. Then an hour later, they're going to see the sun coming around over here. Now they could see, I was watching one of the videos, and I could see the reflection of the sun on the wing next to the engine. And it kind of just got lighter and lighter and lighter and faded out, like it was getting farther away. Okay. It wasn't like it was coming around getting brighter, but the video that you're going to show shows talks about the person that says when they left Chile, they had a warm yellow sun, and then all of a sudden it was a super bright white sun. And those guys in Antarctica were saying how bright it was. They couldn't take their glasses off for a second, and I find that fascinating. So
the sun is so intense. So not only is the sun here, it's intense. You know what I'm saying?
Flying across Antarctica. During the journey to Antarctica, the sun was getting further away. The sun was moving slowly down onto the wing of the plane, and the sky was getting dimmer. At 9:54 p.m., the sun changed suddenly and noticeably. The sun became very bright and very white, and it became very difficult to look at the sun. People started putting on their sunglasses to ease the glare. The sun also stopped going down from our visual perspective and started moving higher in the sky. This was easy to observe as we were on the wing and could see it change suddenly.
That's how the transition would be made. They're in the plane. The sun's behind them. Now the sun, maybe they projected one that followed them along and then circled around them once they land, right? Not hard to do. Not hard to do at all.
The other thing that's really interesting for the globe position on this, or the government, if you will, for trying to lie, is that we can't falsify this. In order to even go down and double check, you have to have $35,000 just to even get down there. Then if you get down there, you got to, hopefully the sky will be clear and that sort of stuff. So, and then you have to get approvals and all this other stuff. It's like, so for anybody to even challenge this, it's like you would have to have access to government places, which obviously we're not going to get. And you have to be rich as hell to even make several trips down there to challenge this. So it's a great position for the government to have because, and this is what Witz had said when I talked to him, is like, well, we can't falsify this. We can't, it's basically a theory, but is it a theory that's sound? Yes, it's a theory that's already based on one we know that's true, that they're lying to us about our cosmology.
So NASA lies. We know that. The webcam footage for the last decade or two has been cut at every time it's supposed to be midnight sun. They cut it. They can't give it to us. None of the tour operators would ever admit, or some of them said no, that they would see a 24-hour sun. There's people that work there that said they never saw it. That worked there for a considerable amount of time. Now, there are other people that say they did saw it, but there's also people that say they saw airplanes hit the towers in New York City, right? And we know that didn't happen. So, people are tricked, are fooled, are mind controlled, are liars, but it doesn't take many. It just takes a few, right? One of the things that convinced Jaron that there's a South Pole is a girl, a pretty girl, shows up in Antarctica. Very few people there except workers and TFE. I don't know how many other guests were there. I thought there was none, was what they said, but I'm still unclear.
There's basically nobody down there at that time, right?
Well, there might have. I'm not 100% sure. We got to check.
So what they do at this camp every year is they run it for 4 months and then they take it all down. Everything goes. They leave nothing on the ice, and then they come back. They leave in February, and then they come back the following November. We thought it was crazy. We found out there was 70 employees here. 70 employees for 10 of us. That's hilarious.
Why don't you just go to Antarctica and look at yourself and tell me if you think it's fake? The chances that it's going to be cloudy are 95+%, 99%. The chances that you're going to waste 2 weeks of your life, a ton of money, to go there to not see anything. Or let's say you get there and they're like, you know what, we got the equipment in place. We got another flat earther down here. Let's wing them again and circle the sun around. I mean, if we're right, the equipment is in place. It's like a planetarium. Just turn it on again.
That's what I'm saying. Like,
just turn it on.
they've had that for a while, as far as I could
Right.
tell. There's no
Right.
reason that they wouldn't,
So think
like,
about it. Think about it. It's in place. It's just like all the other space agencies. Everything
Yep.
they have is in place. Let's launch another rocket. Hey, when Elon launches a rocket, how many people are watching? 3? There's people all over the world watching. There's innocent people. There's people on boats. There's people in airplanes. There's people everywhere that are looking at whatever they're doing, and they're still able to fake it. This is a bright light in the sky with 3 dots on it.
That's nothing. I mean, this is child's play, is really
Right.
what it is.
And just look at more evidence. All of the Glober videos that were put out of Antarctica are search flat Earth, search Antarctica, 24-hour sun. Their videos show up. Our videos don't show up.
Yeah, yeah.
Right. So you have to look at all of these things. The preponderance of evidence is beyond deniable.
I mean, once you put it all together, because to me, it's like it hit all the marks. Like as soon as you told me, and I just started ruminating on it for a few days, I was like, this sort of takes care of everything, and it's the one thing that nobody was looking at. So I was like,
it's the one thing no one was looking at, because and you said that my observation of the sun simulator didn't seem that important to you. It's super important. It is the disk Earth. It is the one thing that keeps people from looking into this. It's the stupid sun simulator, and that was a well laid out red herring to make people discount the idea that they faked it. Now, the Globers are going to freak out about this. They're going to be like, oh my God, grasping at straws. There's going to be 900 videos about me and you. Okay?
Yeah, well,
900.
Okay, I want to say this to all those Globers. I'm going to put a little collage here of this is the stuff that you believe in.
Hippity hoppity, hippity hoppity, hippity hopping over hill.
Okay.
Nice. For those of you out there that have been going hard on Jaron and Austin, you have to swallow your pride and say, okay, I was right that it was fake, but I was wrong on how they faked it. Just suck it up. It's okay. We all make mistakes. Everyone's forgiven. Let's move forward and put our minds together. This is just me, Marty, and Taboo Conspiracy, basically, that are thinking about this. What if we all worked on it? What if other people looked into those sun flares? What if other people look down this line? I'm sure that we can destroy this, and this could be the final nail in the coffin for the globe. Not that it needs another nail in the coffin because it's solid nails already.
Exactly. Yeah. Look, all those people out there, you have to realize that we're dealing with wizards. We're dealing with black magicians. They're one of the main tricks of their trade is a psychological operation. This was a psychological operation. You keep acting as they want you to, then you're falling for exactly what they want you to do. This, for them, this is working perfectly because you're acting the way you're acting and going down all of these avenues that are ridiculous. Vapegate and no. We all know Duffy's not to be trusted. This thing stinks to high hell. It's obviously some sort of fraud. Let's get to the bottom of it and let's come back together a little bit. I have reservations about Jaron, and I've recently talked to Austin. That's been great. So I get people's issues there, but let's bring it back, to center here a little bit. So
just imagine if Jaron had this understanding and he saw that everything he freaked out about is. This solves it. Everything. Mm-hmm. Listen, this isn't about Jaron. This is about what happened with TFA. What's going on with Jaron. That's his personal journey. I don't want anything to do with it right now.
No. And I will just say this, but if Jaron does hear this, I guess my question to you personally would be like, hey, you spent the last 10 years showing us, as we all know, that these guys do this stuff full time.
The plan is it's kind of going to be like we're watching stand up. It's that freaking funny. It is just hilarious. We do have this as well, in case you didn't know. I just wanted to remind you that NASA has been faking space since 1958, and that includes.
And so if Jaron is going to look at this and say, no, they don't have the ability to fake the sun, but they have the ability to do all this other stuff.
Yeah, come on. One rocket launch is hard, a million times harder than this. And just look at what they're doing with directed energy. Look what they did to the people in California and Maui, right? Mm-hmm. Look at that. That is psychopathic and crazy, and the technology is more advanced than this. Way more advanced than anything we're presenting right now. What you and I are presenting is Atari level Commodore 64 stuff compared to what they have today. Yeah, what we're presenting is what they use to fly the moon, the mission to the moon, the same computer.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I would say one thing that I would ask for, or whatever, would be like, hey, 24-hour cameras at every station in Antarctica. Let's see what the sun looks like every single day.
Flat Earth Banjo years ago, he was looking at the 24-hour live cams all around Antarctica and found that it was dark when it was supposed to be light at some of them, and none of the stuff lined up with the globe. It didn't work at all. So that's almost been done. But how about just three 24-hour cameras, and we can prove that they're actually live. But I don't think that'll ever happen.
No, I don't think that's going to happen either. So
people say, well, there's nothing that will ever the flat earthers will ever accept. I think I have the flat earth proof that people will accept. Here it is, right? So we get 2 airplanes in Chile, and we fly them to Antarctica. We prove that we're in Antarctica. Easily done. Compasses, read everything, time of the flight, live stream, whatever. And then the 2 flights fly around. If it's 10,000 miles, it would take about 10 hours, 500 miles per hour, for the 2 planes to meet over here. Now, that doesn't prove, if they can do it in that amount of time, that doesn't prove that the Earth is a globe. It proves that they went around a continent. It could just be a continent on the end of South America, right? But if the Earth is flat, they have to go all the way around this way. Oh, and they're flying a couple thousand feet following the shoreline. So one, we could see how fast the plane is going visually, and we know that we're following the shoreline around, and we're not flying across the ocean or going anywhere else, right? So then they fly around. They fly around, and then they have to go to Australia in a certain amount of time, right? So again, as I said, this could be Antarctica. This could be Antarctica, right? The Australian base is here. So these are different bases, right? So when they land here, you just have to fly to Australia in 5 or 10 hours. We give them 10 hours because it would take like 80 hours to get all the way back if they were over there. If it was if the Earth is flat, so they couldn't do it. There's so much leeway in there that I don't think there's any way to fake it. And the problem is, the flight will never happen because the Earth is flat, because the planes can't even fly that far. Therefore, it'll never happen. They'll just make excuses, and they'll say, well, you flat earthers won't accept that anyway, even if we did it. And, it's just like Neil deGrasse Tyson. It's not worth my time to talk to flat earthers. No, it's not worth his time because he'll get destroyed.
Exactly. So do you accept that there is a natural 24-hour sun in Antarctica, Dave?
I do not. I accept that there's a natural 24 hours of light in Antarctica, and Joe Hanvey's model shows that. And there might even be a bright spot that goes around, as he's showing, which is, you could say it's the biblical model. But the sky is irrational. The sky is not measurable. And if there was a 24-hour sun in Antarctica, doesn't change anything other than our understanding of the sky.
Exactly. Yeah. So, is this fake? Did they actually fake it? Maybe there is actually a 24-hour sun. Okay. Well, these are all things to consider, but this is definitely one thing that I think needs to be considered. And I think it needs to be considered really heavily. This was all just stinks to high hell. Everybody knows it, of a setup, the whole thing, how the premise of it, the money behind it, the confidence of getting down there, Anthony Powell, the fact that it was cloudy for months and all of a sudden the sky's just clear. They've got
and Duffy was so sure that was going to
I mean,
so sure.
Even though he's got all these other financial issues, look, people, like, this is just, just do a little bit of investigative work here and you can see that something's not right. But guess what? As far as I can tell, everybody's going down the wrong avenue by looking at Jaron and Austin. So
right. And the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result. Well, the definition of insanity is trusting known liars, globalists, and NASA when they've proven to be disingenuous liars and hiding the truth of our world. This is the most important lie that the power structure has, 100%. And they will do anything to protect it. So they have space agencies all over the world faking stuff all the time just to keep the lie. This is nothing. This is nothing. This is, NASA, if they use their $75 million a day, what did this cost? $1 million, $10 million, $50 million, $1 billion. Who cares? They don't care. They'll do it, but it's way easier than all the other stuff that they do. So,
well, Okay, well, let's put it out and let's get a whole bunch of hate. But honestly, I don't care because people are like, "Oh, you're coping and stuff." Like, no, I just as always, I just want to get to the bottom of this. We know it's
Yep.
flat. We know that they're liars. None of that's changed. None of it's changed for any actual reasonable person. And so now we have to say, okay, we have an anomaly to deal with. Well, we know we're dealing with liars and we know that they're lying about our cosmology. Why would we assume that they would not lie about this? And then they have all the tech, they have all the resources, they have all the means to do it. And by the way, this video is not for all the globies that are just gonna be like, see, all the flat earthers are
Coping.
now. We don't
You're
care.
coping.
We
Dave's
don't-
grifting to save his app. No,
yeah,
my app is true.
no
I
one
can call
cares.
I can call my friend PK in 1 hour and ask him where the sun is. He'll tell me it's right above him and it's noon. Okay, so that's all I need. The zenith point of the sun circling around the flat Earth matches our reality, matches the biblical explanation, and that's all I need to know.
Yeah.
All right,
All right.
Marty.
Cool, man.
Thanks. See ya.
Appreciate it, man. All right.
Bye.
Bye-bye.